House Republicans kick off an impeachment inquiry hearing into the president. Good evening, I'm Jenna Browder.
And from our studio in our Washington News Bureau, I'm John Jessup. Well, building a case for impeaching President Biden, that's the goal of House Republicans in a series of inquiry hearings that kicked off today, looking into suspected improper business dealings in which the president may or may not have participated or profited.
Democrats say there's no evidence. Republicans disagree, though, and call this a fact-finding mission to build on mounting revelations. Caitlin Burke is on Capitol Hill tonight with our top story. Caitlin, how did Republicans begin making their case to colleagues and the American people?
John, Jenna, House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer says their evidence shows that President Biden abused his power by playing a key role in the family business, which also included Hunter Biden and others. That role involved selling the Joe Biden brand for anyone willing to pay for power, influence, and access.
Today, the House Oversight Committee will examine over 24 pieces of evidence revealing Joe Biden's corruption and abuse of public office.
That evidence reportedly includes emails, text messages, bank records, and the testimony of Biden business associates. Thursday's hearing, however, did not entail unveiling new evidence. Rather, it was an effort to lay groundwork for why the GOP believes the inquiry is warranted.
Whether it was lunches, phone calls, White House meetings, or official foreign trips, Hunter Biden cashed in by arranging access to Joe Biden, the family brand.
GOP called witness Jonathan Turley, an expert on impeachment, testified that he believes the House has passed the threshold for an inquiry, but not for charges.
I do not believe that the current evidence would support articles of impeachment. That is something that an inquiry has to establish.
If the Republicans had a smoking gun or even a dripping water pistol, they would be presenting it today, but they've got nothing on Joe Biden.
Representative Jamie Raskin, the ranking Democrat on the committee, displayed a government shutdown clock, criticizing Republicans for focusing on impeachment when the nation is days away from running out of money because they can't agree on a spending bill.
This isn't partisan warfare America's seeing today. It is chaotic infighting between Republicans and Republicans.
Raskin also accused the GOP of opening an impeachment inquiry due to pressure from former President Donald Trump, bringing up a Truth Social post from the end of August where Trump writes, quote, "Impeach the bum or fade into oblivion. They did it to us."
Of course, the standard for impeachment is not whether they did it to us, but whether the president committed treason or bribery or other high crimes and misdemeanors. But the Constitution's irrelevant to them. What counts is what Donald Trump wants.
It's unclear whether House Speaker Kevin McCarthy could even get the votes to pursue actual articles of impeachment. And Senate Republicans warn there's no way the Democratic majority there will bring this to a trial. John, Jenna?
Caitlin, it really felt like today's hearing covered the big picture legal aspects of impeachment. Did Republicans who are leading this series of inquiries, did they detail any of the specifics in the Biden case?
It was pretty big picture. And, you know, even the witnesses, they didn't know the details of the Biden case. Instead, they were experts on the Constitution, on impeachment, on tax and finance fraud. So, you know, it really was just laying the groundwork today. John, Jenna?
All right, Caitlin Burke on Capitol Hill. Thank you, Caitlin. And for more on this, we're joined by Mark Claussen, a professor of history and law at Cedarville University. Mark, welcome. So what did you make of this inquiry, and do you think it could, in fact, lead to the impeachment of President Biden?
Well, I think Jonathan Turley was correct in saying not yet, not right now. Like it was pointed out a couple of minutes ago, what they're doing today is laying the procedural groundwork. They're having witnesses to tell about what constitutes the threshold for impeachment, how you would go about it, what the purpose of bank records is, what access they could have, things like that, rather not the actual new evidence, which may come into the picture later. Right now, what they have is what we would call in law circumstantial evidence. Now, you can make a case based upon circumstantial evidence, but you need more than just, in this case, you would probably need more than just the circumstantial evidence to get an actual vote to impeach or to move to impeachment. But right now, they've just begun the process.
Democrats seem to be making the case that this is all about political retribution. But, Mark, if we can just take a step back for a moment, do you think this inquiry is warranted based on what Republicans have unearthed so far, or do you think that more could be coming?
I think more could be coming, and I do think it's legitimate to pursue it. I'm not sure what else they'll find. It depends on how secretive, how successful people have been in hiding things, if they actually are guilty of this. But I think it's legitimate to actually pursue the facts as far as they'll take us.
Yeah. Mark, you mentioned circumstantial evidence. This week, the committee revealed that in 2019, $250,000 was wired to Hunter Biden from China. The beneficiary address listed was Joe Biden's Delaware home. Mark, how damaging is that? And could a revelation like that be considered evidence?
Yeah, of course. It's really good evidence. What you do is you use that fact as your foundation. Then you begin to work backward and find out why that was transferred the way it was, who was involved in the transfer, and maybe, if you could, what their motive was in doing that. So it's foundational, it's crucial, but it's not all you need.
Mark, just about a minute left. President Biden has said on the record that he's never discussed business dealings with his son. Now he is saying, and the White House, that he was never in business with his son. I think a little bit of parsing words here. Mark, what does all of this mean politically for President Biden?
It's a fine line he's walking there. And I have to say that he certainly wasn't telling the truth when he said he was not in business with his son. What does that mean for him politically? Is that if this continues and more evidence comes to light and we have a sound case, then his political future, even if he doesn't get impeached, is further damaged. And he's already looking at some damage in his ratings.
All right, Mark Claussen at Cedarville University, thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. Good to be with you.
Well, some Republicans are trying to impeach the president. Others want to replace him. 7 hopefuls took the stage last night in the second GOP presidential primary debate. From
the border and abortion here at home to China and Ukraine overseas, the top Republican contenders took on a range of topics as they battled on stage. And for more on last night's debates, we're joined by Nathan Gonzalez, editor and publisher of Inside Elections and a Faith Nation contributor. Nathan, welcome to you. Can we start with your overall top-line thoughts and key takeaways from last night?
Yeah, I think without having survey data post-debate yet to understand whether it moved numbers, I think Trump was actually the winner of the debate, and we've established that he was not there. But I didn't really hear anything significant that would have caused a large number of Trump supporters to move away from him, and he has a significant lead, whether it's in national polls or in the early states. There were a couple of moments, though, where places where Trump could be attacked were unveiled. That moment where Governor DeSantis talked about the president's former president's comments on abortion, that was an hour and 45 minutes into the debate, and it just sort of no one came back to it. There was talk about the increase in the deficit when when Trump was president. That is a place where Trump could be vulnerable, but the candidates sort of dance around it and then move on to attacking each other. So I think that what you saw was a little bit of desperation from the candidates, feeling like they needed to have their moment, and that ended up being somewhat chaotic and crosstalk, and no one heard anything because everyone was trying to get in their messages and their attacks.
Yeah, and it definitely seemed like the moderators had a hard time keeping things under control. So Nathan, after the first debate, we saw that Vivek Ramaswamy and Nikki Haley, they got a bit of a bump in the polls. Do you think we'll see that this time around for either of them? And also, what about Ron DeSantis?
We'll see. I mean, sometimes we just have to take a deep breath and wait. And I don't expect there to be a significant bump for any of the candidates. I think Nikki Haley proved herself as a great debater. She, rattles off the facts quickly. She had a zinger or an attack for everyone on that stage. But I'm not sure that that's enough to win. I mean, fundamentally, this is still Trump's race to lose, and he didn't really take on significant water from this debate. And time is coming. The Iowa caucuses are coming up here, 3.5 months away? So time is ticking for these candidates to have a big moment.
Nathan, you just mentioned, as alluded to, we saw in Matt's piece that dig that Nikki Haley had against Vivek Ramaswamy. You can weigh in on that, but I really want to ask you about Tim Scott. You know, he's known as a serious fundraiser, and I saw a lot of ink spilled on him today, saying that he really did himself a favor by being aggressive and just seeming to like insert himself when he needed to. Do you agree or disagree? And what about others on the stage, like Mike Pence? Did he do himself any favors?
Yeah, I'm not sure that Scott stood out. He had a couple of good lines. I think would resonate with most, if not all, Republicans. Mike Pence, you know, is still kind of stuck in the same lane, and he's probably most notable for some cringeworthy jokes that he tried to make. I think for Ramaswamy, he has successfully elevated himself to almost a peer with the rest of these contenders, but that means he's getting more scrutiny, and you're seeing Nikki Haley or others come after him and dig into his business dealings because he's viewed as a contender. And when people look more closely, if you are connected to China in any way, that's not going to, and you're labeled as that, that's not going to go well for you, particularly in a Republican primary.
Yeah, we'll be watching for the polls to come out in the days to come. Nathan Gonzalez of Inside Elections. Thank you, Nathan.
Thanks,
Good
Nathan.
to see you.
Good to see you all.
The growing odds of a government shutdown. The latest from Capitol Hill when Faith Nation returns. Welcome back. We're now just hours away from a government shutdown with no deal in sight. The two chambers of Congress are working on dueling short-term agreements, neither of which are expected to pass on the opposite side of Capitol Hill. And lawmakers are settling in for a long weekend to try and get a deal done.
We need a stopgap measure to keep government open. I know Sunday is football day. It is the weekend. And sometimes we get right there, we play through. We get into overtime, we get it done. If we're both past something, that's a good thing. Then we both know where the markers are, right?
Broadly speaking, the heart of the discord centers on House Republicans wanting any short-term resolution to contain a bump in funding for the U.S. southern border. The Senate has a bipartisan stopgap measure of its own, with an increase in funding for Ukraine and its ongoing war against Russia. A deal breaker, though, for some House Republicans. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell calling the Senate's short-term funding plan to keep the government open at current levels the best option for 20,000 Border Patrol agents who may not get a paycheck.
Down the government for those of us who are concerned about the border and want it to be improved. The Border Patrol and the ICE agencies have to continue to work for nothing.
Well, if the government does shut down, most economists say the economic impact is unlikely to cause an immediate recession. In the short term, though, expect a slowdown in the economy, adding to the shocks from the Hollywood writer and actor strike, an ongoing strike in the auto industry, and volatile oil prices. The rocky economic picture comes amid a new report showing 60% of Americans are still living paycheck to paycheck. Today's jobless claims report shows a still strong labor market, applications for unemployment benefits inching up some this week to 204,000, up by about 2,000 from the previous week. Still the lowest since January.
Helping heal invisible injuries. Still to come, the daunting work of chaplains in war-torn Ukraine.
Welcome back. Over a year and a half into Russia's ongoing invasion of Ukraine, and many of the injured bear not only wounds easily seen, but invisible, emotional ones as well.
That's right. Ukrainian chaplains strive to offer spiritual healing to those wounds. CBN contributor Chuck Holton reports on the growing demand for these caregivers of the soul.
This Ukrainian medic's GoPro camera video reveals the war's chaos. An artillery shell explodes near his car, wounding him before he can ensure his patient's safety. Despite his injuries, he persists in his mission of caring for comrades, highlighting these heroes' crucial role. Once the wounded arrive at the aid station, Army chaplains immediately comfort and pray for them.
We call them hospitaliers. They only work in hospitals, intensive care units, amputees, psychiatric clinics. And also there's narco clinics that we work with, and lots of soldiers do get addicted because of the stress PTSD that they face, and they cannot cope with it, so we need to work with them. They're struggling. Lots of them lost their families.
While medics can treat the physical injuries, emotional trauma persists. With a shortage of medics, chaplains often take on the responsibility, providing aid and healing to both soldiers and civilians. Many chaplains maintain strong personal connections to the area, which can intensify their challenges.
Lots of them have their families in occupied territory. At this moment, they cannot do anything to it. So we have problems. The chaplains I work with, they go front lines. We go all the way across the front line. In my team, we've got 2 women, both of us mothers of 5.
Christian Hickey, an American Green Beret and ex-police officer, relocated to Ukraine last year, committed to helping these chaplains.
Chaplaincy is not something that's been around at all in Ukraine. It was just officially established in 2022 after the war started. It had unofficially started in 2014. But now I sit on a board where I can actually have direct insight and give great advice on how the chaplaincy corps should work and help train those chaplains so they can go out and help soldiers who are seeking answers, who are looking for something, and this reveal Christ to them right there in the trenches.
Chaplains recognize the critical nature of their mission.
If a soldier is conscious, then we talk to them. We hold their hands. We try to take their attention away from their wounds. Medics like us because they like to work with chaplains because we stabilize them.
This mission is so important. It's the person on the ground, Russian or Ukrainian, who are fighting each other, who are dying, and who are needing some sort of help. We want to stand in solidarity, say, hey, we love you, we're here to support you, and to give them something that's everlasting. It's not something that's internal, not something that's going to go away after we leave.
What we want to do is we want to preach the pure gospel. Just like pray to them, lead them to Jesus, take their hands, and like literally pray and they accept Jesus Christ in their hearts.
The wartime horrors can affect the chaplains as deeply as the soldiers. Katerina reflects on her emotions just after hearing of a friend's death.
If you ask me to describe what war is, I'd probably use one word to describe it. It's just a waste. It's just a waste of money, resources, a waste of lives, waste of where sometimes we run out of strength. There's just a waste of a whole country, and it's absolutely pointless. Absolutely pointless. At the end, nobody wins.
Chuck Holton, CBN News, Ukraine.
Thank you, Chuck. An unusual police chase in upstate New York. That is next on Faith Nation.
Well, finally tonight, from canine unit to cattle rancher, a police dog received a little bit of an unusual assignment this week.
Yeah, police officers in upstate New York responded to a call that a herd of goats was on the loose. The herd of 30 escaped their pen, wandering onto a road and blocking traffic. Luckily, the officers were accompanied by Pietro, a member of the Canine unit, and recruited him to help wrangle the livestock. Pietro usually finds narcotics and missing people, but lived up to his German Shepherd name, successfully corralling the herd to safety and putting an end to the traffic jam.
You know, it reminds me when I was in 6th grade, our school was by a farm and a whole bunch of cows came on to the yard, so we had to have someone.
Yep, gridlock.
Yep. Well, thank you so much for watching.
Have a great night.